All right, welcome TFFL owners to another TFFL webcast. It's Wednesday, September 30th, 2015. We're looking ahead to week 4 TFFL action. I'm Stick. I'm managing editor of TFFL Media, leader of the Aliens, joined as always by our commissioner chief, Skipper the Sponge Fisherman. Hank will talk about your K-Wheels, 126 points a little bit. Welcome.
Yes, very exciting.
And as always, our two-time defending champs, the Giant Killers, Berto.
Hey, Stick.
All right, so we're we spent a lot of time last week talking about the draft. We're now full on into the regular season. We're going to talk a lot about week 4 action here. We'll take a quick look back at a great week 3. But first, we're going to start with a great TFFL trivia question for you guys. Write down your answer. We'll give you the correct one later in the show. So I've been looking back at a lot of TFFL drafts recently, and I want to talk specifically about the past 5 drafts before this one, so 2010 through 2014. 2 TFFL franchises during that time frame, 2010 to 2014, have failed to grab a single player with their first-round picks who remained a keeper heading into this year. So 5 straight years of drafts yielding nothing that they brought into this year. That means either they didn't have a 2014 first-rounder or struck out entirely on a guy who took less than a year to prove himself not to be keeper-worthy. And not only did they strike out in 2014, but 2013, 2012, 2011, 2010. 2 franchises.
Stick?
Yeah.
You're saying that there's no first-round picks from 2010 on the team right now?
From 2010 through 2014 on those two.
Okay. I just want to rephrase that, make sure I understand it.
You got it. So
So
I'm looking at.
They may have kept one from 2011 to 2012 to 2013, but none are on it as of 2015.
Yep.
Okay.
They might have traded them away.
That's a good question.
Yep.
That's a great question. I really like that question. Wow, that's hard. And there's 2 teams?
You got it. And there are 2 franchises that came into 2015 with no value remaining from their first-round picks from the previous 5 drafts. Again, they may have traded them away, gotten some value that way, and that might be a clue there. Think about teams that make a lot of trades. Think about teams that maybe don't have a lot of first-round picks, but somehow they. Yep. All right. That was a long way of explaining that question.
That's a tough question.
It is. That's tough.
Okay, so quickly, we'll talk a lot about what's coming up in week 4, some trends in the league, but let's start by looking back at week 3. Chief, let's return to our best and worst lineup moves of the week from week 3, please.
I guess you didn't get my email.
Uh-oh.
Well, the reason I say that is because I looked at all the games, and I didn't want to get a good decision for the Aliens that would have made them lose by 75 instead of 80. It seemed a little pointless. Or likewise, the Boba Fett's, because they would have only won by 74. So I was trying to get one that would have made a difference, and there was actually 0 controversial decisions that were the difference between winning and losing this week. I will give the Hams a couple of minor kudos. They did, of course, they were the game that was very close, them and the Lizards, Beavers game. But they did go with Frank Gore over Andre Williams, which you could have argued back and forth as bad as the Colts' offense have been. And he went with DeAndre Hopkins over Tyler Lockett, which again was probably the right move, but maybe you consider going Lockett with the special teams value in addition to the receiving value. But if he made either one of those decisions the other way, he would have won the game. So we'll give the Hams a minor thumbs up for maximizing some roster decisions that made the difference between winning and losing or tying in the case of one of them. I don't really have a bad lineup decision. That would have made a difference. I think as I mentioned in the report, I certainly think the Packers should have started Chris Johnson over Melvin Gordon. However, again, he would have scored 100 points in a losing effort, and it's hard to fault him for that.
A lot of high scores. A lot of high scores in week 3.
A lot of high scores and not a whole lot of competitive games.
Yeah, even so. Yep. So let's talk specifically about the highest score out there, the highest owner, Hank, 126 points. Not quite the record. We'll acknowledge the AMPAC still holding that record, 129 in a packed bowl game against the Aliens in 2000, but 126 points. And what's fascinating about this is Peyton Manning only had 18. There wasn't somebody here who posted 40 and carried the team. The kicker only had 7. 18, 22, 21, 21, 19. 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. Great game, K-Wheels.
So much fun. I mean, I have to say that I went to bed before Peyton actually scored most of his stuff on Sunday night, but it was it's so much fun to put up that many points and see Jamal Charles, get meaningless points. I just didn't want him to get hurt. But yeah, and fun to do it against the AMPAC because there's nothing more fun than beating the AMPAC, except maybe beating the Killers, but I haven't had that in a while, so.
Hey, Chief Berta, we're not going to try to talk too much about playoff races yet. It's too early for that. But let me ask you: are the K-Wheels now once again the early season favorite?
I think so far this season, the K-Wheels and the Mongols are the 2 best teams out there. With respect to the Giant Killers, they're 3-0. They deserve to be 3-0. But you look at the points the team's been scoring. And I think the Wheels and the Mongols are the class of the TFFL right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. When you put up 127 points or 26 points, that's impressive. I think everyone was worried about Manning. I wasn't worried about Manning. He's going to be fine.
I'm worried about the other Manning.
Yeah. But Peyton Manning's going to be fine. He's going to get his touchdowns. There's no weaknesses. You could quibble about a third running back, but everyone has that issue. And actually, not even a third running back.
Yeah.
That's really not even an issue.
The fourth.
Remember, DeMarco Murray was not in the game. I mean, he was hurt.
Yeah, no. So you have DeMarco Murray, Charles, Randall. I mean, that's pretty solid. And then, with the resurgence of Larry Fitzgerald, the Wheels. I mean, they're the favorite. They're a game back right now, but
Yes.
I have to say that when you put up that kind of points, yeah, you're the front runner.
I haven't worn that well in the past. I don't want to be the front runner. I just want to win, and I want to win at the end. I want to win at the end. That's all it's about. Win the freaking Pac Bowl, or who really cares? Let's go.
I mean, the last 2 seasons, I believe you've started 6-0, and we've seen where that has gotten you.
Yeah, one did. It got me really close. I have to confess, I went and looked back at that freaking game with Berto, the Pac Bowl, 80-79, and just how close that really was.
The greatest TFL game ever played.
It could be. It could be. It just hurts so much to look at that and remember how to.
Why'd you do that?
It's going to be different this time. We're coming. We're going to win.
All right. So last week we did say it was too early to start worrying about the playoff races. Too early to fret about being 0-2 or to celebrate being 2-0. So now we've played 3 whole weeks. And I'd still be inclined to not make any real conclusions about TFFL franchise's 2015 chances at this point, except that the AMPAC have already announced a fire sale. And to be honest, after my week 3, the Aliens may not be too far behind. Was Ralph just letting his emotions get the best of him? Remember last year, there wasn't a lot of big action because so many teams were holding out for the playoffs. So let me ask you again: how many more weeks until we can really draw some conclusions? Before some fire sale trades are realistic, before teams really need to start making a push for the playoffs with a big trade?
I'll jump quick and just say, look, there's Berto's 3-0. There are 6 teams at 2-1. So at least one of those teams is not making the playoffs. There are 4 teams at 1-2 and 1 at 0-3. Is that right? But it's time to either to dig in and get serious and figure out how you're going to win games, or start planning. And too early. Things can happen. Injuries are going to happen. Things are going to ebb and flow. But yeah, it's easy to get frustrated already if things aren't swinging your way.
Yeah, I'm looking at the impact though, and I'm wondering, when it comes down to a fire sale, who would
who do you want
be for sale?
Yeah.
No, not that. I mean, he's got some good players, but you think about it. Like last year, he had some older guys, or maybe some guys that he really didn't believe in, that he unloaded. He had his huge fire sale last year. So I'm looking at his squad. And for the teams who are going to be in it, I don't know who, there's 2 parts of it. Who he would be willing to unload and who would have value to somebody else. So if you look at his roster, he's not going to trade Russell Wilson. He's not going to trade Melvin Gordon. He's not going to trade Keenan Allen, although maybe not.
Matthews, Blount?
Yeah, LeGarrette Blount's tradable, very much.
Yeah, maybe. He's not going to trade Jimmy Graham. So
Eric Decker. Eric Decker's tradable.
Maybe there's a couple guys there, but to be honest with you,
he doesn't have Eric Decker.
He's not going to get, of those other guys, he's not going to get the price that he would want at this stage. In a few weeks, maybe he could, but I don't think he's going to get what he would anticipate or what he would want to get for some of these guys. So I think he's gonna hold the line for now, and see if he can win a couple games. See if Phil and I trip up. If he can get to 2-2, then it's or not 2-2. 2-3. If he can squeeze out a couple games here, anything can happen. So I think he gives it a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think that was just pure Il Supremo frustration coming through on Sunday or Monday night, whenever it was. Look, you have a head-to-head game left with both of your guys you're chasing in your division. They have to play each other. So, as long as you don't fall, off the edge of the earth, you'll be okay. And as the owner of another, 0-3 team, I'm kind of the same thing. Until I take that maybe 5th loss, I've had some ridiculous inquiries already, and I won't say who it was. He lives in New Jersey. So I'm 0-3, man. It's not good. It's not a good place.
That doesn't rule a lot of people out, actually.
I know, but that's why I didn't give it totally away. But you're 0-3. I've played good teams so far. I should have. From my perspective and my hope, I should be able to beat a lot of teams I haven't played yet, starting with the Impact this week. Although after last week's outburst, who knows? There's just no reason to cash. Even setting aside the fact that fantasy football is terrible for the year if you're out of it. Setting that aside, there's no reason to write off this year yet. I mean, it's 3 games.
Yeah, that's a good point though, Chief. You're playing the Impact, so one of those teams will be 0-4.
And then that team's really got to make some hard decisions. But then I got the Fats next, and as good as they've been this year, I don't subscribe to the Fats yet, being a 2-1 team. So things happen, and I don't think I'm great, but it's a matter of I've got a quarterback who started slow. I need him to get to an average quarterback, and I'll be fine. Whether that happens or not, we'll find out.
A lot of good
these nagging injuries. And Burrow's get the same thing. Either play the guy or don't.
Right.
Don't make me go with Shady McCoy, who may or may not play, and try to make that call, or I need Victor Cruz and Drew Brees to come back. But it's like it always is. It's injuries, and I've had better luck than a lot of guys out there. The Aliens, for one, so I can't complain too much about that.
Yeah, one thing about those nagging injuries and those lineup decisions, it's another reason why I like to have, not that I would pick a less talented guy over a more talented guy on intentionally, but to have a Marshawn Lynch and then to have a Fred Jackson and now Thomas Rawls behind him, Monday night, I can say, oh, Lynch isn't going to play. I can put one of those guys in. If it's going to be Rawls, boom, I pop him in the lineup on Monday.
Sure, if Lynch isn't going to play.
Right. No, I mean, it comes down to Monday night. Is he in or is he out? And can I put his backup in? Having that backup on the team.
And
sure.
Berto has the luxury of waiting until 9 o'clock Monday night.
But the point still is, if they give Lynch a go and decide after the first series he's not quite there,
right? Then you're fine.
Let's give it to Rawls, And we were both in that situation this week.
Yep.
We both started running back who played a series or two, and then was zeroed out from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, two other real quick points on this topic of playoff races already. I mean, we're just too early in the season. There's again, you've already said that you're 1 or 2 games out of a playoff spot at most at this point, and things just change so much from week to week. Ben Roethlisberger's injury being a great example. The Aliens swing from 82 to 28 points. I'm suddenly very depressed about my team, whereas a week ago I was very excited. Things change a lot from week to week, and so next week the impact could, and they just had a good week this week. They come out strong again next week, they're right back in it. So I think it's a little too early. Chief, you made the point that you've still got the 2 head-to-head games against your division left. You can make up a lot of ground that way for the division. Nobody brought up the wild card. I mean, nobody is more than what, a game or 2 out of the wild card right now. And you're going to have a head-to-head games against a lot of those potential wild card teams. So there's just way too much time left to make up what little ground might have been lost already. All right, let's shift gears here. Let's tackle one last draft topic before we really get too deep into the regular season. We've been wanting to talk a little bit about the kicker defense strategy that different owners have in the draft. Some folks take 2 kickers and 2 defenses, I think. Some take 1 and 2, different combinations, or just 1 and 1. I know Berto and Ralph had a almost hour-long debate about this topic at the draft. I'm sure we all have little different strategies. What's your take on the right mix of kickers and defenses to invest draft picks in?
Yeah, I'll chime in here. I like going 2 and 2, and I think one of the reasons why I do that is I think you're seeing more and more kickers getting cut. After a couple weeks, they don't pan out. They're getting chopped. Injuries to kickers. Honestly, I've seen more injuries to kickers, it seems like, this year. So to me, I always like to have the extra kicker. The debate that I had with Ralph was, his position was, well, why am I going to pick another kicker when I can take a flyer on somebody late in the draft? Which is fine, and I get that. And honestly, he's had some great late draft picks. If you look at it, Eric Decker in the 13th round, he picked several years ago, and he's had a couple others. So I get that, but I think you can then look at the flip side and say, there's been a lot of great free agent pickups as well, which are huge and can help you, make a playoff push and a pack bowl run. I like to be able to have those free agent picks and not have to necessarily worry about making a trade if something pans out or it doesn't pan out. So, to me, the free agent pick is more important, or the IR pick for that matter, is more important than a 13th round pick. And I'll also throw this out there too: having having defenses that you can drop early. If you have defenses who have buys in week 4 or 5 and you can unload one of those and pick somebody up, I think that's another key too, to be able to, shed that second defense after you get past the bye, and then you can pick somebody else up. So
I will co-sign with Berto. He made a lot of the great points. I always draft 2 and 2, and I value free agent pickups. I don't want to have to use one on a kicker. And we had the colluding deal with brother to brother trades where they would pass kickers or a defense back and forth, and that's collusion and crap, and I'm that kind of stuff shouldn't happen. But I draft 2 and then use your free agent picks to get the guys who you didn't realize you should be drafting.
Yeah, I'll take the other side of that, and I've never taken 2 and 2 as long as I've been in this league. I think and there's no wrong answer, it's preference, but I think you're much, much more likely to get a contributing player in the late rounds of the draft than you are in week 3 or 4 or 5 of the free agency period. I don't think there's been I don't want to say that, but my anecdotal feeling is there hasn't been that, except in the cases of injury, a whole lot of FA picks have made a huge difference. But what we're forgetting there is also trades. It's very easy to swap defenses with another one, or kickers with another owner, or a defense for a kicker. If someone happened to go 2 and 1 the other way. FA picks are very valuable. They are. But I think there's been one season where I've used them all, or 2 when I've used them all. And that included using one to pick up a kicker. So I've never really missed an FA pick or say, God, I wish I had another one to use. I usually use them the last week or 2 of the eligible period just for the hell of it, so I don't lose them. Maybe even take a flyer on maybe keep it for next year or something. But otherwise, I'd probably carry over every year picks. So I think we're better off taking a guy like, last year my 2 11th round picks. So my 4th and 5th to last picks were Marvin Jones and Isaiah Crowell. This year I think it was Stephen Ridley and Kenny Stills is for use. So they're flyer picks who might help, and I like my chances there than in the FAIR period. Let's face it, unless you're drafting the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or you have an injured player, there might be 1 or 2 players a week who make a difference or might make a difference, and you might not be in position to get them. Everybody wanted Dante Moncrief week 1. That was one owner could get him.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if we went back and looked at all the FA picks and IR picks, and the amount of those guys that started in playoffs or even pack bowl games, I think we'd be surprised, to be honest with you.
We'll actually talk a little bit about that in just a second. That's right. One of our next topics.
I just wanted to make one more point about this topic, Stick, while we're on it. So please. If you guys noticed, I made a trade this week with the Beavers. The Beavers had an injured – so the Beavers had 1 and 1, right? They had one kicker, 1 defense. Kicker was injured and cut, and their defense was on bye. So they needed to make a trade this week. And honestly, I needed something that I could fill in potentially as my 3rd running back, so I picked up Ertz. But that to me is a perfect example of, he was in a bit of a bind, right? He had 1 and 1, not 1 and 2, but he had 1 and 1. Unless he IR'd somebody, he was going to IR somebody and do a free agent pick to get a kicker and a defense this week to make up for those buys. Now, he still may have to do it down the road because he still only has one defense or trade or do something. But, that to me would be a monumental waste if this week he had to use a free agent and an IR pick to pick a defense and a kicker. As it stands now, he just needs to get a kicker. But
yeah, and I would counter that by saying, look how easy it was to make a trade.
Right.
Yeah.
So real quick, I like to go two defenses, one kicker, and I agree with Berto on the two defenses. Look for one that has a bye early in the season, and then you can shed one and just go with one defense the rest of the year. But I like the one kicker for a similar reason, for the reason you like two kickers. They do get injured, but I don't want to find myself with two kickers that I've drafted late in the year after I've used all my free agent picks, and then one of them gets injured week 11, 12, or 13. And, now I'm scrambling to make a trade or something. So what I'd rather do is have one kicker and with a bye late in the season. And then at that point, I can sort of evaluate, plan, have a free agent pick saved for that guy, and find a kicker who's kicking well, who's a free agent that I can add late in the season. But you do worry about them getting injured. We saw that. I think it was the Beavers several years ago entered the playoffs with no kickers, right?
That was me.
That was you. We've talked about this before. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's segue into something you guys started to bring up: the importance, or perhaps lack thereof, of free agent moves in general. But I want to focus on early season free agent moves. And I did go back through just a few of the transaction emails. I didn't scour them all, but Victor Cruz, Week 4, 2011, free agent pickup by the Devils. Andre Ellington, Week 3, 2013, for the Beavers. Justin Forsett, Week 2 last year for the Aliens. Great season last year. I hope Dante Moncrief, Week 2 for the Aliens in 2015, adds to that list. By the same token, I want to bring up two flip side examples. The Lizards put Odell Beckham on IR in Week 2 last year. Didn't get a single point from him last year. The Aliens waived Keenan Allen in Week 2 of his rookie season. Picked up Phillip Rivers that week. Got value by trading Phillip Rivers to the Sponge, but nonetheless. So, real quick, I'll let you guys jump in here. But first off, credit to whomever it was, and I was not the one, who invented the strategy of drafting an injured player who might have value as a long-term keeper, perhaps, but giving yourself some ammunition real quick to make a free agent, an IR move early in the season. And we've seen some franchises like the K-Wheels, I'll pick on Hank a little bit, over the years that maybe weren't very active in free agency at times. Yeah. So we've already seen some disagreement, I think, on the previous topic. How important is it to be very active early in the season and to be smart about what you do so you're not putting Odell Beckham on IR?
Well, using an IR pick early is tough, and unless you got somebody, I'll point to my trade in the offseason to Calvin Benjamin. I'm regretting that right now. I kept Andre Johnson, who's going to be useless, and I'm realizing I'm not going to be able to get any value out of him. I should have kept Calvin Benjamin, put him on IR, and I could have picked up Dante Moncrief. And those kind of things happen. So I think there's something to that strategy. And there are players out there. Free agent picks are sometimes tough to use just because there's 2 or 3 guys that everybody wants, and unless you're in those first few positions to get them, it's tough, and that's why you do use an early IR pick to jump the line.
Yeah. Look, we spend a lot of time. For myself, after the NFL draft and maybe around July, really start picking up your off-season TFFL work. Your studying, your analysis, everything else. And I draft the guys I want to draft. And I can't imagine cashiering one in week 1 to pick up the latest Frisman Jackson, who happened to have 2 touchdowns in the first week of the season, and get rid of a guy who I've spent 3 months saying I want this guy, he's going to be good this year, and falling into that recency bias. I also, we forget sometimes how good he was early in his career, but I made the same move that Richie did last year with Odell Beckham on Julius Jones when he was a rookie in the league. And he was out, and I IR'd him right away to pick up whatever flash in the pan had a great week 1 or week 2. And it probably cost me a decent playoff run there. I trust my own analysis. more than overreacting to a week 1 or week 2. Now, if it gets to be week 5 and the guy's been productive every week, like which guy's from Cleveland? Benjamin right now?
Travis Benjamin.
Travis Benjamin, who every week say, this isn't sustainable, but he's sustaining it, mostly on special teams value. After a while, it gets to be, okay, well, this is a habit, this is real, and then you start looking at that. But, for week 1 or week 2, I tend to try to hold my fire a little bit. And maybe that costs you that, the next great, Dante Moncrief, who I recognize as talent. I used an FA pick on him last year, but and maybe that ends up costing me. I don't know.
I think we've talked about this before, but I think this is one of the things that makes our structure of our lineups and all that awesome in the TFFL. The judicious use of your FA picks and IR picks is unlike any other league. And that is awesome. You gotta. It's a strategy in and of itself, and it's doing like Chief said, doing your research for the draft, but then continuing that into the season and keeping your eye on people and not picking up everyone all the time like other leagues do, and it's unlimited or whatever. This you got to be smart with it, and you got to make the right moves. And the fact that you can't, bring somebody back off of IR like you can in a lot of other leagues. You got to make that determination too, which is huge. So that is one of the things that makes the TFL awesome in terms of our lineups and how the rosters are structured.
I think if you're a team like the Aliens that is not performing well, or whomever, Chief, I'm sorry to say it, at 0-3, you have to use these opportunities to improve your team. You as Hank pointed out, there might only be 2 or 3, or maybe only one guy each week that is really worth something, but he could be a difference maker. And if you're in position to get him, you gotta go get those guys. But yeah, it's a tough call sometimes whether somebody's really a good get or just a flash in the pan.
The other thing too is I don't know about you guys, but once it gets as the season goes on a little bit, I'm looking on a week-to-week basis. All right, who's used FA picks? Who's used IR picks? Should I hold back? Should I fire a bullet now? You're thinking about all that, which is a whole other element to this, which is fantastic.
Can we confirm, and I don't necessarily know the answer, what is the number right now of free agent and IR? Is it 4 and 2?
4 and 2.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap up our roundtable chat here with now a week 4 look ahead. Chief, you outlined some of this in your commissioner report, but give us the schedule, give us a game of the week, and let's talk about that.
Okay. Give me a schedule here. Coming up, let's see if I'm on this week, if I might still be on last week for my other thing. I apologize, you caught me unawares. Laptop is working a little slow right now. Okay, we have the K-Wheels at the Senators. Based on the current lineups, we have the K-Wheels 17-point favorites. Based on last week, it's hard to argue. We have Boba Fett's favored by 4 over the Dirt Devils. We have the Aliens minus 15 over the Beavers. Lizards minus 4 at the Mongols. Giant Killers at the Hams. Hams are favored by 7. And Sponge at Ampac. Ampac is favored by 6. So, and I really would prefer to talk about, 2 good teams or, 2 evenly matched teams. It doesn't really seem to be that right now. It seems to be a clear favorite in each matchup. So, and I didn't want to do this. But, we have the Sponge and Pack game, both 0-3, and this was kind of touched upon on that last segment. I mean, 0-4, the fat lady's not singing, but she's certainly in the back warming up. So, I mean, this is a huge game, and, not just for the Ampac and the Sponge, but you got to start thinking there's going to be some players there that could swing some other division races in a trade. once the loser decides, well, the fat lady's just about done her warm-ups. Let's see what I can get out there. So it's going to be a good game. I mean, we talked about who might be available on the impact, and I wrote down Keenan Allen, LeGarrette Blount, and Eric Decker, because I really don't think Ralph is going on keeping anybody, to be honest with you. The possible exception of Melvin Gordon and Jimmy Graham, and even Jimmy Graham's probably negotiable. But there are some pieces on the sponge that might not be in the long-term plans. Isaiah Crowell, for one, might be attractive to another team who's down a running back, or even Greg Olsen or Golden Tate. I mean, there's nobody huge, but if someone loses a player because of injury or something like that, there'll be some swings of roster talent there. So, like I said, right now the Impact is a 5-point favorite. I know that Ralph was in there today, changed his lineup, so I have to assume that's the lineup he's going to go with, based on what he knows right now. Same with me. However, I'm keeping an eye on Drew Brees, and I think if he doesn't play, I'm going to swap Brandon Cooks out for Greg Olsen. So that's what I know. If you care to comment, feel free.
I agree that the Sponge APAC game is the game of the week. That's the one to watch. Yeah, I definitely would take Kramer in the points in our game. I'm a little worried about it. Tyrod Taylor seems to be a bit of a wild card, and I of course want to beat Kramer, but I'm not going to put up 126 points again.
Kramer has the first, fifth, and sixth highest scoring quarterbacks in the league on his roster.
Nice, and he's going to turn those into something. That's something to talk about maybe next time. Is that there are definitely going to be some moves starting to be made for those 2-2 teams or 3-1 teams that want to get something going next week.
I might be in the quarterback market in a week or two.
I was just going to say, would Kramer trade one of those quarterbacks in division to the Sponge?
The price is right. I'm sure he'd have no problem with that.
Yep.
Yeah. Kramer's always willing. Trades.
So real quick, the interesting thing about this game, and I think you're right in calling it the game of the week, is and the fun thing about the game is it's going to go down to Monday night. Just looking at Ralph's lineup, he's got the Cowboys defense on Sunday night. He's got Brandon Coleman on Sunday night. He's got Jimmy Graham and Russell Wilson on Monday night. Chief, you've got Mark Ingram on Sunday night, Brandon Cooks on Sunday night, Terrence Williams on Sunday night, and then one more game outside the usual. You've got the Sunday morning game with Chris Ivory in London at 9:30 a.m.
Right.
But yeah, that game's going to go down to Sunday night and then into Monday night. But yeah, season's perhaps hanging in the balance.
I don't like the 9:30 a.m. start, if I'm being honest. Too early.
You're in church?
I will be at church, yes. And but it's
there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong.
We got to do that. Got to instill that in the kids. Anyway, 9:30, and then we're going to carry that games all the way through till 11:30 midnight. I mean, that's
nice.
That's 14 hours. I mean, that's big.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. It's a lot of commitment to watch it all.
All right. So let's wrap up our roundtable here with the answer to our trivia question, which I think you all genuinely seem to like. I'm not going to try to repeat the question in its entirety because it's a little complicated, but remember, we're looking for two franchises. I will take I'll give you credit for one and double credit for two. Berto's got Ampac and K-Wheels. Back up there, Hank. Who do you have? Senators?
Yes.
One guess.
I didn't guess two.
And Chief has got the Senators and the Ampac. I believe Chief is correct. Let me just double check this. The Ampac, 0 players still with their franchise from the 2010 through 2014 drafts. The other team, yes, the Senators.
Russell Wilson wasn't? I thought Russell Wilson.
Not a first-round pick. Remember, I'm only talking about the first round, maximizing what you get out of the first round. The Ampac, real quick, picked in the 9th slot 4 consecutive years. and got nothing out of those players. Terrell Owens, did well. I think the first year he had him, but wasn't a keeper. Roy Helou, Miles Austin, Marcus Wheaton. Actually, I don't think any of these guys were even kept for 1 year, much less still there after 4 years.
Yeah, I got the AMPAC, but the second team was.
Yeah, so the
Wow.
Senators have, and this is part of a loopy project I'm working on, analyzing the first round of the last 5 years. The Senators have the most picks in that span with 9, including 3 this year, but have traded away, DeAndre Hopkins, Mark Ingram.
Ryan Matthews.
Yeah, Ryan Matthews was sort of a bust and then got traded away. Monty Ball and Daniel Thomas, really total busts. Kevin Smith, another big bust. But he has traded away some decent picks early on in the first round, too. All right, so Chief, as we usually do, some reminders perhaps for the league, and an opportunity for any rants.
I guess it bears repeating again. FAIR picks are due Saturday at noon. So far, I've been pretty good about getting them before 1 o'clock and getting them out. If you have a Thursday night game, there is a Thursday night, yes, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. If you have any Ravens or Steelers you want to play, get them in your lineup, tonight, tomorrow. And I don't have a lot of rant. Let me ask you something. I'll use this minute for another purpose. I've been giving a little thought the last week to a TFFL Twitter feed. Does anyone follow anybody on Twitter? Does anyone have a Twitter account? Does anyone use this anymore who's over the age of like 15?
I have an account. I follow some people, and I think I've maybe done one tweet that Matt did for me. I know Matt Smith is our social media chairman. He would probably be the one to spearhead this project. It's an information source. It could be fun.
I mean, all the government agencies have them to just to blast out public information, but I'm thinking what I could do with it in my hands and what fun I might have with it.
Real quick, first I do tweet a little bit. I love having Bill Thornburg follow me because he likes to favorite a lot of my tweets, which is very very supportive of him. But Hank knows this. I actually at one point bought a domain called keeperleaguers.com, and I think I still have the Twitter account keeperleaguers or something like that, thinking we could one day launch a website about keeper league strategies. So yeah, hey, let's
do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, social media chairman, let's get on that.
No, I mean it's easy enough to get an account, TFFL commissioner,
Yep.
And just blast either reminders or observations or mini rants or what have you. Trash talk, anything else that tickles my fancy as time allows.
I'm not on Twitter, but this would certainly be a motivating factor to get me on Twitter. So
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I don't really value Twitter the way some people do. My wife gets it a lot better than I do.
Oh, good. She can subscribe.
Yeah, follow us. Follow all of our mindless banter. That would like fingernails on chalkboard for her.
Listen, it might be unimportant, but it's not mindless.
No, it's not.
Chief, a quick suggestion. Why don't we post a poll to the site? I'd just be curious to know how many owners have a Twitter account.
Yeah, I'm going to do that tonight.
All right.
Or
okay.
they would establish one to follow, TFFL tweets.
Make that as an option. I have one. I will get one. I have no interest.
Right.
There we go.
So that's it for the commissioner minute. Good luck everybody. It's a big week. This next week's webcast could be a very somber tone depending on which way things roll this weekend.
For you, for the aliens. On the flip side, we got our two stalwarts over there.
Do you have the Senators this week? No, Phil's got the Senators.
I have the Senators this week. I'm a little nervous about this game. Kramer's team has been putting up points,
He's got Brady on a bye, but you're right. He has other options here that have been.
He's got Tyrod Taylor and Mariota. He's got Taylor in the lineup now. We'll see if that sticks, but it probably will. I mean, he's got players. This is a game.
But this is the week. If you're going to hit the Senators, this is the week to get them with Brady on a bye.
No Brady, so let's go. Knock him down.
Or the Giant Killers with the Gronkowski on bye, in
That
addition with Romo and Foster and Lynch hurting.
It's a big week for Thomas Rawls, maybe.
Maybe.
All right. Well, thanks to our team here on the panel. Thanks to our audience at home. And good luck to all teams in Week 4. As Chief said, I think it is a big week already. I think next week might be the week we can at least start talking about the playoff race taking shape, even if we can't quite draw some conclusions yet. So, yeah, good luck out there. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.